Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Facebook updates its status to pressure, and it's coming from UK politicians. 10 years on from the attacks on Mumbai, Attacks looks back. Sports washing by the United Arab Emirates. And a bear breaks in and steals nothing in Animals Doing Stuff on Monday. Well, top of our newsfeed, Facebook. Now, a case around a creepy app that allowed people to find women wearing bikinis has led to a politician doing a very rare thing in British politics. He ordered a businessman to hand over his confidential documents. And the significant step was taken because Mark Zuckerberg is refusing to face politicians and admit what he knew about Facebook's data breaches. The social network is in uncharted water.
This British MP has set off a showdown with Facebook. Damien Collins ordered a sergeant-at-arms to take an executive from a now-defunct firm called 643 to Parliament in London and surrender documents he held, which related to a court case 643 was engaged in against Facebook in California.
The Common CMS has received the documents it ordered from 643 relating to Facebook. I've reviewed them, and the committee will discuss how we will proceed early next week. Under UK law and parliamentary privilege, we can publish papers if we choose to as part of our inquiry.
Kapow! The British Parliament is coming for you, Facebook.
The documents are said to hold details about what Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg knew how people's privacy was being compromised on the site. 643 created an app called Bikini, which allowed users to trawl Facebook and find photos of people wearing bikinis. People who were not their friends. Facebook eventually put a stop to this obvious data breach, and that's why 643 is suing them in court.
The problem with Facebook responding to this lawsuit by being so disdainful of 643's creepy bikini app is that Facebook is the company that was allowing any Tom, Dick and creepy bikini app to back a Mack truck up to its API spigot and haul away a truckload of user data.
Reports say the documents seized by Damien Collins reveal Facebook was aware of its lax privacy policies way before the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which revealed at least 87 million people had their data harvested by a firm that worked to influence the way people voted in elections around the world, including in Mexico, Kenya, the US, and the UK's Brexit referendum. Damien Collins says he took the extraordinary step because Mark Zuckerberg has refused to appear before either the UK Parliament or the International Grand Committee set up by lawmakers from a number of nations who will meet tomorrow.
All right, let's have a look at some of the other things that have caught our eye on social media. Now, these puppies are causing lots of shares and likes. They're called peace puppies, and they come from the Pungsang hunting dog Gomi, who was gifted to Moon Jae In and his wife from the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Now, they put the pictures on their Twitter feed, and the translation of the post apparently says that the pregnancy of the dogs is about 2 months long, so Gomi must have come to them pregnant. I hope inter-Korean affairs will be like this. Now, this parody video has appeared on social media. It's a clapback to the Dolce & Gabbana ad from last week that led to the Italian luxury brand getting cancelled and boycotted in China. Now, D&G made a video which had a Chinese woman eating Italian food with chopsticks, and it was pretty offensive in many ways. Now, this new video shows a guy called Rich struggling to eat buns with a knife and fork. And this is one of the best videos we have seen in a while. What you're watching is a time-lapse of a Russian rocket carrying cargo to the International Space Station. Now, it's being filmed from a camera aboard the space station. You can see the launch as it takes off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan and breaks the Earth's atmosphere. As the video rolls on, you see the Earth rotating and then the re-entry of the first stage of the rocket. It's both breathtaking and impressive, and I, for one, cannot get enough of watching it. Now, it's been 10 years since 164 people were killed in the Mumbai attacks. It was 3 days of terror that the world had not seen up until that point. Heavily armed men roaming a city, murdering civilians. Unfortunately, it's a style of attack that has become more and more common. Here's a conjecture of what happened in those 3 days in November of 2008.
So the Mumbai attacks of 2008 was a very defining moment for India, for the subcontinent, and for the world as well. It's for many reasons called the 9/11 moment of India. So what really happened that day was these 10 armed gunmen had arrived on the shores of Mumbai on a boat, and they took hostage of a lot of people in a landmark Mumbai hotel, and they also sprayed bullets in a train station in Mumbai. They also went to a cafe after that, which is again a landmark cafe, and also attacked a Jewish center. Then the siege was laid for 3 days. It was the most televised event in the recent history. I was glued to the televisions for 3 days. 9 out of these 10 attackers were killed by the security forces, and the lone gunman who survived was later hanged.
And social media at this time was still pretty new to people, but this was really the first time that we saw its use more broadly. Just tell us exactly how it was used.
Yeah, the attack itself and the story broke really on social media first. There were people reporting what was going on in the hostage situation in the hotel, and then later on over the 3 days, like, people were tweeting where the policemen were moving or where the movements were going around, what areas to avoid. The hostages from inside the hotel were tweeting about what was going on with them. People as a result actually got on social media around that time in India.
And how are people marking what happened 10 years ago on social media?
The tributes are really coming from around the world as well as from India, and in Mumbai I think they were really celebrating the spirit of Mumbai and how it stood defiant in face of this really gruesome attack. There are stories of courage and hope. For instance, there was this girl who was born when the gunmen had attacked outside the hospital, and she was called Goli or Bullet. So she's turned 10 today. The US Secretary Mike Pompeo has given a statement as well of pledging another $5 million to any information related to perpetrators of this attack.
What do you think has been the legacy? People often think of the world prior to 9/11 and after 9/11. What was the world like prior to 2008, the Mumbai attacks, and after it?
I think it mostly has really derailed the peace talks between India and Pakistan. Under global pressure, Pakistan has really also tried some individuals in the court, but India has not really accepted. Also, in a way, exposed the rift between Pakistan's civilian government and also the military establishments. It has had a lasting impact on the relations between the two countries.
Well, to the UAE now, a place that uses sport as a way to distract from some of its questionable behaviour in other spheres.
What if we told you that Manchester City, Pakistan's cricket team, and F1 racing are allegedly being used as a PR exercise for the UAE? Amnesty International has accused Abu Dhabi of attempting to, quote, sports wash its deeply tarnished reputation. It has invested billions in a variety of sport clubs, institutions, and infrastructure. But with no discernible sporting history, why has the UAE put its money on sports? The UAE, specifically the royal families of Abu Dhabi and Dubai, has focused its investments on a couple of key areas. In football, the Abu Dhabi royal family owns 6 clubs around the world, including English champions Manchester City. Since it bought the club, they have won 3 English Premier League titles, a Football Association Cup, and more, making it a huge success story. And this success has shaped the conversation around the Gulf nation. But this hasn't come cheap or without controversy. So far, they have officially invested $1.3 billion in the club. But recently published leaks have exposed that the owners avoided financial regulations to maintain their success. Dubai has also invested in football through Emirates sponsorships of major clubs including AC Milan, Real Madrid, and Arsenal FC. Abu Dhabi has also invested heavily in Formula 1 racing and hosts the season-ending race. It has developed a $500 million purpose-built track surrounded by a mall, a hotel, and multiple theme parks. Each F1 race provides a platform for the host to reach out to 352 million global viewers. It's also delved into the cricketing world, constructing 2 purpose-built stadiums in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, which has hosted the Pakistani national side since 2009 and the Pakistani Super League. The International Cricket Council, the sport's governing body, is also headquartered in the UAE, and it has hosted the Asian Cup 3 times, most recently in 2018. In tennis, Abu Dhabi has hosted a yearly event since 2009, and Dubai has hosted an official Association of Tennis Professionals event since 1993. The events have attracted sport's biggest stars and have million-dollar prizes. And now, Abu Dhabi is in the race to be declared the world capital of sports. With how much they have invested in the industry, what is Abu Dhabi trying to cover up? Amnesty International reports the UAE is using sports to cover its human rights abuses, such as its involvement in Yemen or taking sides in war-torn Libya, as well as its restrictions on freedom of expression and the torture and ill-treatment of detainees. Its treatment of migrant workers has also had little effect on their reputation, even though the workers face low pay, exploitation, confinement, and physical and sexual abuses under the kafala system. But the headlines surrounding the UAE have often avoided mentioning its sports washing, focusing instead on its sports investments and the success of its teams and events, which has been helping them build a positive reputation around the world. But have sports allowed them to avoid damage to their image?
Okay, around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Monday. Indian officials are no closer to recovering the body of an American missionary who was killed by the Sentinel Islands last week. John Allen Chow swam to North Sentinel Island, breaking the law and going against the advice of anthropologists to preach Christianity. He was killed immediately, and it's thought his body was buried on the beach. The Sentinelese are the last pre-Neolithic tribe on Earth and fiercely resist any contact with modern humans. There are thought to be about 50 to 100 of them, and they live on an island in the Andaman Sea. This Facebook post from a South African mercenary has caused ripples. In it, Ibn Barlow accuses the government of Nigeria and that country's president, Muhammadu Buhari, of preferring defeat to victory in the nation's fight against Boko Haram. In a post that's full of rumour, Barlow contends Nigeria's fight against the terror group is being deliberately hamstrung by politicians. More than 100 Nigerian soldiers died last week after an attack by Boko Haram. Nigerian soldiers posted this video last week too, complaining of the poor conditions they are expected to live in while they fight and die for their country.
I'm talking about moving there. So it's like, so if you can get the price per ticket maybe around a couple $100,000.
Elon Musk says there is a 70% chance that he will die on the planet Mars. He gave an interview to Axios where he says his company, SpaceX, has made a huge breakthrough and that he's very excited about it and that it would allow him to get to the red planet. Keeping it extraterrestrial, Russia says it plans to go to the moon to verify if the US went there in 1969. Dmitry Rogozin of the Roscosmos made the announcement in a Twitter video. Now it's clearly a joke, but there are an increasingly loud bunch of internet people who think the US didn't go to the moon in 1969. These are the same kind of people who think the Earth is flat. And video of a termite colony the size of Great Britain has dropped online. It was found in Brazil, and yes, you heard me correctly, it's the size of Great Britain. There are around 200 million termites living in this colony, but there are only about 60 million in Britain. People, of course, not termites. And keeping it subterranean, a discovery in Egypt has scientists very excited, but having watched too many terrible movies, I am concerned about what happens now that the tomb has been opened. Watch out for the curse. And Monday's animals doing stuff. You will have heard of a cat burglar, yeah? Well, this isn't that. This brilliant brown bear busts into an office of the California Highway Patrol. Well, busts in isn't quite the word. It kind of just opens the door. It then hangs out in the office for a while before getting bored and walking out, as you are about to see. Now, at the point that it does leave, it's followed out by two police officers. One of them has its gun drawn. This is America, after all. And that will be all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again tomorrow.